You ever think your life is solid? Family, house, love, and then it all crumbles in a single moment? That was me. I thought I had it all until I noticed the late nights, the phone glued to her hand, the fake smiles. Then I heard his name, James. What started as suspicion exploded into the wildest, most gut-wrenching night of my life. A confrontation in a cafe, secrets spilling out, and twists I never saw coming. You will not believe how it all unfolded. Trust me, this one is worth it. You think you know someone, right? You live together for decades, share a bed, raise kids, build a life, and then one day, bam, it all comes crashing down. That was me, standing outside my wife Lisa's office, planning what I thought would be a nice evening together at our favorite cafe. I wanted to surprise her. Something to shake up the quiet emptiness of our house now that our kids, Sophie and Chris, had moved out for university. The plan was simple. Dinner, a few laughs, and maybe a spark to remind us of better days. But I was not naive. Not anymore. A week ago, I overheard Lisa talking on the phone with her best friend, Nicole. I was not eavesdropping on purpose, but when I heard Lisa mention some new spark in her life, my stomach dropped. Nicole was laughing and egging her on, and Lisa said something about how it was exciting to feel alive again. I wanted to brush it off, pretend I misunderstood, but the way she was giggling, it did not sit right. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting. But then, 2 days later, I got a call from a woman I did not know. She told me, point blank, that my wife was getting cozy with a guy at her office, a man named James. She said they were just colleagues for now. But she wanted me to know because, in her words, no one deserves to be blindsided. That was when the puzzle pieces started falling into place. Lisa had been working late more often. She was suddenly more guarded with her phone. And James? I found out he was a new hire, a tech support guy a decade younger than us, single and apparently a serial flirt. I needed to confront her, but not yet. Not until I had everything I needed. So I played it cool. That evening, when Lisa walked out of her office, smiling as always, I greeted her with a kiss and said, "How about we go to the Green Leaf tonight? I made a reservation." She looked a bit caught off guard but shrugged it off. "What is the occasion?" she asked. "Just wanted to spend time with my wife," I replied. The cafe was quaint, a small place where we had celebrated anniversaries and birthdays. I thought it might be the right spot to have this conversation, the conversation that could either save or end our marriage. The atmosphere was warm as we ordered wine and appetizers. Lisa seemed relaxed, but she kept checking her phone. Every time it buzzed, she gave me a sheepish smile and said, "Just Nicole. You know how she is." I knew better. As we clinked glasses, I tried to steer the conversation towards us. Our life, our kids, the memories we had made. Lisa leaned in and said, "Matt, I love you. I really do. We have built something amazing together." But then she paused and added, "You have been acting distant lately. Is something wrong?" I looked her in the eyes and asked, "Lisa, do you want to tell me anything?" Before she could answer, the door to the cafe swung open, and there he was, James. He looked startled to see us, but not enough to turn around. Instead, he walked right over to our table. "Lisa," he said with a smile too familiar for my liking, "fancy seeing you here." I did not even let her reply. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor, and said, "James, stop pretending this is a coincidence. You have been following us since we left her office, have you not?" His face turned red as he stammered, I just came here for dinner. Did not expect to see you." "Lisa, care to explain why you're just a colleague, cannot seem to leave us alone?" I said, my voice sharp. Lisa froze, clearly caught off guard. But before she could speak, James made the biggest mistake of the night. He pulled out a chair and sat down at our table. "Relax," he said. "There is no need for drama." Drama? That was it. Without thinking, I grabbed my plate, still hot with beef stew and mashed potatoes, and slammed it right into his face. The cafe went silent as James hit the floor, unconscious. Lisa screamed. The waitress ran over. I stood there, looking down at him, my breathing heavy, and said to Lisa, "You have a choice to make, him or me. But one thing is for sure, tonight we are done pretending." The silence in the cafe was deafening, except for the faint groan from James as he started to come to. Lisa was crouched by his side, her hands trembling as she tried to wipe the stew off his face with a napkin. "Matt!" she hissed, her voice sharp and accusing. "What the hell is wrong with you?" "Me?" I said, still standing over them. "You want to lecture me about what is wrong, Lisa? How about we start with your little after-hours flirt sessions?" Lisa looked up at me, her eyes wide. "It is not what you think," she said, but her tone was weak, defensive. The waitress was back now, nervously asking if we needed medical attention or if she should call the police. I shook my head and pulled out my wallet, tossing a handful of cash on the table. "That should cover the meal," I said, glaring at Lisa. "And the broken plate." I turned on my heel and walked out of the cafe, my chest tight with anger. I could hear Lisa calling after me, but I did not stop. I needed air. I needed space. When I got to the car, I leaned against it, trying to calm down. But it was no use. My mind was spinning with everything I had seen and heard over the past few weeks. Lisa's laughter on the phone, the whispers at her office, the smug look on James's face when he sat at our table like he belonged there. She came out of the cafe a few minutes later, her face pale. "Matt," she said softly, "can we talk?" I opened the car door. "Get in," I said flatly. The drive home was silent. Lisa tried to speak a few times, but I cut her off with a shake of my head. I did not trust myself to have this conversation while I was still fuming. When we got home, Lisa followed me into the kitchen. "Matt," she started again, "you have to believe me. Nothing happened. James is just a friend." I laughed bitterly. "A friend? Really? Because your friend has a reputation. Did you know that, Lisa? Or did you conveniently overlook the fact that he is a known player?" Her face fell. I cut her off. "Do not bother lying. I know more than you think." I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I had saved. Texts between her and James that I had accessed through our shared phone account. Nothing explicit, but enough to make it clear their relationship was more than professional. Lisa's face turned red. "You went through my messages?" she snapped. "Do not turn this around on me," I said, my voice rising. "You are the one sneaking around. You are the one disrespecting our marriage." She folded her arms across her chest, her jaw set. "I never cheated on you, Matt. Not physically." That word, physically, hit me like a punch to the gut. "So you admit there was something?" I said, stepping closer. Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "It was just attention," she said quietly. "I liked the way he made me feel. It was exciting, but it did not mean anything." I stared at her, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "It did not mean anything?" I repeated. "Lisa, do you even hear yourself? You let some guy flirt with you, you sent him texts, you went behind my back. And it did not mean anything?" She reached for me, but I stepped back. "Matt, please," she said. "I love you. I do. This was stupid, and I know that now. But it is over. I promise." "Over?" I said, shaking my head. "Lisa, it is not over. Not for me. Not for us." I grabbed my jacket and headed for the door. "Where are you going?" Lisa called after me, her voice trembling. "Out," I said without looking back. "Do not wait up." I drove aimlessly, the streetlights blurring as my thoughts raced. It was like the life I thought I had, stable, predictable, solid, had been yanked out from under me. Lisa, my Lisa, had not just let a crack form in our marriage. She had taken a sledgehammer to it. Eventually, I found myself parked outside a bar. It was not one I usually went to, just a dimly lit place tucked between a laundromat and a pawn shop. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of beer and cheap cologne. Perfect. I slid onto a stool, ordered a whiskey neat, and stared into my glass like it held answers. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Lisa again. I ignored it. By the time I was on my third drink, a woman a few seats over spoke up. "Rough night?" she asked. I glanced at her. blonde, mid-30s, wearing a leather jacket and too much eyeliner. The kind of woman who looked like she had seen some things. You could say that, I replied, swirling the amber liquid in my glass. Let me guess, she said, leaning closer. Wife trouble. I smirked. Is it that obvious? She chuckled, a low, throaty sound. Men do not drink like that over bad days at work. Normally, I would not open up to a stranger, but the whiskey had loosened something in me. She is messing around with some guy from her office, I said bluntly. Messing around how? The woman asked. Texts, late nights, maybe more. I do not even know anymore, I admitted, hating how defeated I sounded. She tilted her head. And you? What are you going to do about it? It was a good question, one I did not have an answer for. By the time I left the bar, it was past midnight. I was not drunk, but I was not exactly sober either. I drove home slowly, my mind replaying the confrontation with Lisa, the look in her eyes when I walked out, the mix of guilt, fear, and something else. When I got back to the house, it was dark except for the faint glow of the living room lamp. Lisa was sitting on the couch, her legs tucked under her, holding a mug of tea. You are back, she said softly. Not for long, I replied, heading straight for the stairs. Matt, wait, she called after me. We need to talk. I stopped at the foot of the stairs, my hand gripping the railing. Talk about what, Lisa? How you betrayed me. How you let some guy come between us. Her eyes filled with tears again. It was a mistake, Matt. A stupid, selfish mistake. But you have to believe me, nothing happened. I never slept with him. I shook my head, laughing bitterly. You think that makes it better? You think I care about the technicalities? You broke my trust, Lisa. And that is worse than anything else. She stood, her voice rising. Do not act like you are perfect, Matt. You have been distant for months. You never talk to me anymore. You are always on your phone or buried in work. I felt invisible. Oh, so it is my fault now? I shot back. You needed attention, so you went and found it somewhere else? That is your excuse. Her face crumpled, and she sank back onto the couch. I do not know how we got here, she whispered. I stood there for a moment, watching her cry, feeling a pang of something. Anger, sadness, maybe both. Then I turned and went upstairs. When I got to the guest room, the one I had started sleeping in a few weeks ago when things got tense, I locked the door behind me. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. This was not how I imagined our life would turn out. But maybe that was the problem. I had spent so much time imagining, I forgot to see what was really happening right in front of me. The next morning was eerily quiet. Lisa and I had this unspoken routine now. Avoid each other at all costs. I woke up early, showered, and made coffee without a word. She stayed upstairs, probably waiting until she was sure I was gone before coming down. But as I stepped out to leave for work, I found a small envelope on the hallway table with my name on it. Her handwriting. Inside was a note. Matt, I know I hurt you, and I know it will take time for you to even think about forgiving me. But please, can we try? For us, for the kids, for everything we built together? I love you. I do. Please do not give up on us. Lisa. I crumpled the note and shoved it into my pocket. Words were cheap. Trust was not. Work was no escape. I spent the whole day distracted, replaying the events of the cafe in my head, wondering if I had gone too far or not far enough. Around noon, I got a call from Sophie. Hey, Dad, she said brightly. How are you? Her voice was like a lifeline, but it also filled me with dread. She had no idea what was happening, and I was not about to be the one to burden her. I'm fine, I lied. How's uni? We talked for a bit about her classes, her plans to come home for the holidays, and her boyfriend. Some guy I had not met yet but already felt protective about. She mentioned how excited she was to see both me and Lisa, and my stomach twisted. Dad, is everything okay? She asked suddenly. You sound off. I'm good, I said, forcing a cheerfulness I did not feel. Just a lot on my plate right now. You know how it is. I hung up soon after, but her words stuck with me. For years, I had been the rock of our family, the one who kept things steady. But now I felt like I was the one crumbling, and I hated it. That evening, I came home to find Lisa in the kitchen, setting the table. The smell of roast chicken filled the air, and for a moment, it felt like old times. "Dinner is almost ready," she said, her voice tentative. "I'm not hungry," I replied, walking past her. "Matt," she said, stopping me. "We need to talk. Please." I turned to face her. "What is there to talk about, Lisa? You made your choices. Now I am making mine." "What choices?" she said, her voice breaking. "I am still here, Matt. I am trying. I am fighting for us." "Fighting?" I laughed bitterly. "You call this fighting? You think cooking a nice dinner and leaving me little notes is going to fix what you did?" Her face hardened. "What do you want from me? Do you want me to beg? Do you want me to crawl on my knees and apologize every day for the rest of my life? Because I will, Matt. If that is what it takes, I will." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "What I want, Lisa, is for you to understand that what you did was not just a mistake. It was a choice, and every choice has consequences." She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. "So that is it, then? You are giving up?" "Maybe I am," I said quietly. "Or maybe I just do not see a reason to keep holding on." I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing there. Later that night, as I sat alone in the guest room, I heard her crying. I closed my eyes, trying to shut it out, but it was no use. Her sobs cut through the walls, through my anger, through everything. And for the first time since this whole mess started, I felt something I had not expected. Guilt. The guilt gnawed at me all night. I told myself it was not my fault, that Lisa had brought this on herself. But her words kept circling in my head. "I am still here. I am fighting for us. What if she really was trying? What if I was too angry to see it?" Morning came and neither of us said a word. She left for work before me, her car pulling out of the driveway without even a glance in my direction. I took my time, staring at my coffee until it went cold. By mid-afternoon, I decided I needed answers, real ones. I was not going to sit around guessing anymore. So I did something I never thought I would do. I called Nicole, Lisa's best friend. Nicole answered after a few rings, her tone surprised. "Matt, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." She hesitated. "All right, James," I said, the name feeling bitter on my tongue. "How much do you know about him and Lisa?" There was a long pause. Too long. "Nicole, come on," I pressed. "Look," she said finally. "I am not getting in the middle of this. Whatever is going on between you two, you need to talk to Lisa about it." "Nicole," I snapped, "I am not asking for your opinion. I am asking if you knew." Another pause, then she sighed. "Yes, I knew. But I did not think it was serious. I told her it was a bad idea, Matt. I swear I did. She said it was harmless, just some silly office crush. I thought she was being stupid, but I never thought she would." "She would what?" I interrupted. "I never thought she would hurt you like this," Nicole said, her voice soft. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Nicole knew. Lisa had talked about James, planned her little game, and she had kept me in the dark the whole time. I hung up without saying goodbye. That evening, Lisa came home to find me waiting in the living room. I had the crumpled note she had left me, Nicole's words replaying in my head like a broken record. "Sit down," I said when she walked in. She froze, her purse still slung over her shoulder. "What is this?" "Sit down." She slowly lowered herself onto the couch, her eyes wary. "Nicole told me everything," I said flatly. Her face went pale. "Matt, do not," I cut her off. "Do not lie to me again." She opened her mouth, then closed it. For once, she had nothing to say. "Was it fun?" I asked, my voice sharp. "Flirting with him? Sneaking around behind my back? Did it make you feel young again?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "It was not like that," she whispered. "Then what was it like?" I demanded, leaning forward. "Tell me, Lisa." Explain to me how you could sit there, night after night, pretending everything was fine while you were texting him, meeting him. I do not know, she cried, burying her face in her hands. I do not know why I did it, Matt. I was stupid and selfish and I just wanted to feel something. Her words hung in the air like smoke. I stood, pacing the room. Do you have any idea what you have done to me? To us? You destroyed everything, Lisa. And for what? A thrill? A bit of attention? I am sorry, she sobbed. I am so sorry. Sorry is not enough, I said coldly. Not this time. She looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. So what happens now? I do not know, I said honestly. But I cannot keep living like this. That night, I packed a bag. I told her I needed space, that I was going to stay in a motel for a few days. She begged me to stay, but I walked out anyway. As I drove away, the house fading in my rearview mirror, one thought kept running through my mind. Sometimes, love is not enough. I spent the next 3 nights in a cheap motel on the edge of town. The kind of place where the walls were thin and the water pressure barely counted as a trickle. But it gave me what I needed, distance. I stared at the ceiling for hours each night, trying to figure out what to do. Could I forgive Lisa? Could I even look at her the same way again? Every time I thought about James and those texts, my stomach twisted. It was not just about what she did. It was about what it meant, about who we had become. On the 4th day, Lisa called me. I let it ring. She texted, but I did not open it. Then, as I was eating a stale vending machine granola bar for dinner, my phone buzzed again. This time it was from an unknown number. Matt, this is James. We need to talk. I stared at the screen, the nerve of this guy setting my blood boiling. Before I could think it through, I called the number back. He answered on the first ring. Matt, he said, sounding nervous. Thanks for calling. Make it quick, I snapped. What do you want? I wanted to clear the air, he stammered. About Lisa and me. Let me stop you right there, I interrupted. I do not care what you have to say. You are a leech, James. You saw a crack in someone's marriage and you went for it. So no, we are not clearing the air. It was not like that, he protested. I did not plan this, all right? Lisa came to me. She was the one who wanted to talk, to vent. I was just being there for her. You mean you were waiting for your moment? I shot back. You think I do not know your type? There was silence on the other end, and then he sighed. Look, I will leave her alone. Okay? I already quit my job. I am moving to another city. I wanted to say I am sorry. Sorry does not fix this, I said, my voice cold. Stay out of our lives, James. If I see you again, you will not walk away with just a plate of stew in your face. I hung up before he could respond. The next day, I went back to the house. It was strange, walking through the front door again after those few days away. Everything looked the same, but it felt different. Lisa was sitting in the kitchen, her eyes red and puffy like she had not slept. You came back, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For now, I replied. We sat across from each other at the table, the silence stretching between us. Finally, I spoke. I talked to James, I said. Her eyes widened. What? Why? Because I needed to hear it from him, I said. And now I need to hear it from you. All of it. No lies, no excuses. Just the truth. She swallowed hard, then nodded. All right. What followed was the hardest conversation of my life. Lisa admitted everything, the texts, the flirtation, the stolen moments at the office. She insisted it never went further than that, but even so, it felt like a dagger twisting in my chest. When she finished, I leaned back in my chair, exhausted. Why, Lisa? I asked. Why would you risk everything we had for this? Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head. I do not know, Matt. I wish I had an answer, but I do not. All I can say is that I hate myself for what I did. And I hate that I hurt you. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, staring at the woman I had spent most of my life with. I thought about our kids, our memories, and the love we had shared. And I wondered if it was enough to save us. I am moving into the guest room, I said finally. We will figure out what to do from there. She nodded, her shoulders slumping with relief. Thank you, she whispered. But as I walked away, I could not shake the feeling that something had irreparably changed.